Okay, welcome to the Dipped Podcast. Oh man, do we have a very special episode for you today. We're going to do quick introductions and then we would like to unveil this episode's very special guest. Starting off, we have...
Yo, it's your boy Kevin, aka Atticus Warhol, aka Lab the Rat, aka the Shinsei Movement.
Nice. Subby Sub, Cash Money, Sub the Savage.
You already know. And it's your boy Q, Quentin. We out here. And I'm so excited for you guys to meet today's guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is James Choi. I don't have any cool names, so it's like, we'll just leave it at that. I'm James.
That is a cool name.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. It's our pleasure. Normally I have the soundboard, not today. So James, tell us a little bit about what you do. I heard you got some little business. You got some businesses out here. You got some entrepreneurship things going.
Yeah, so I think my journey in where we are today kind of started with Cafe Dulce that opened in 2011 in Little Tokyo of downtown Los Angeles, which is why I actually know Kev.
Nice.
The broader story of things. So we started that in 2011. My background's actually in accounting. I'm a CPA, worked at Ernst & Young, did the whole corporate thing. I genuinely thought I was going to be a partner, but now I think about it, I was like, dude, there's no way.
Oh, yeah. The different fork in the world life path.
You make plans and God laughs at you. Oh, this is where I want you. So literally, I have a memory. So what happened was my mom had a battle with cancer. I'd helped her open up a small business prior to Cafe Dulce. And then we moved back down, had a battle with cancer. I took a year off of work and then took care of her. And then after she was done with chemo and surgeries and everything like that, I was like, dude, I gotta get back to my life. And so actually went back to work at Ernst & Young. So they called me a boomerang. And then, and then while I was there, she said, hey, I found a partner and we're going to open up a cafe bakery.
Ooh.
And we're going to do it in Little Tokyo. And I was like, don't do that. Yeah. You just got done with cancer. And I originally left Ernst & Young because I had to help her with the other one. Because, I don't know how much time we have, but she immigrated to the U.S. when she was like 18, 19, 20. I don't even know if she has a high school education. But dude, she moved here, made a life for herself, did really well. And she was just like very gung-ho about things. And so me having the privilege of having an education in the U.S., born and raised here, she didn't have, so she needed a lot of help in terms of like admin, hiring people, even managing people, like the cultural differences of her being stuck in the 1970s, 80s of Korea versus the cultural U.S. today. She could pick and choose which culture she wanted to dip into in terms of like what would be advantageous to her. And so I was like, I don't want to manage this for you again and like leave my job again and whatever. So I told her not to do it, but she said she found a partner. And so they went on this journey of building Cafe Dulce in Little Tokyo. That was our first location. That's where she had identified and they opened. But through like a month before they opened, the partner and her got into some over. And then he was like, good luck. And he was the baker.
Wow. Well, wait, that's like a key.
Right?
Yeah, wow. We need that
kind
guy.
of an important person.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So he's out and my mom's by herself and whatever else. So then I said, okay, well, I guess I'm leaving my job again. And so that opened up. And so again, like in terms of like being faithful to where God's placing me, I remember there's definitely one day where I'm like sweeping and mopping every night. First year and a half, I was at the store pretty much 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day. And I was taking out trash and there was a heavy bag and I like lifted it, got it into the trash compactor. But as I'm throwing it over, there's like just a pool of garbage water. And it hit and like splashed in my face, gets in my mouth. And literally I was like, what am I doing here?
It's just suffering.
Like, totally. I was like, God, what is your meaning of life for me? So, but that was year one. Like we survived it. My mom unfortunately lost her battle with cancer. And so Little Tokyo, Cafe Dulce is a little bit of a legacy and an homage to her. And I think she'd be pretty happy in terms of like how we've grown. So now we have 5 Cafe Dulce locations.
Wow.
We're here at the USC Village. Thank you guys for driving.
Yeah.
It was at a low shoot. And so we opened Cafe Dulce at USC Village in 2017. And what is that? 7 years now, pretty much. So fall, winter of 17 is when we opened. And then I had a conversation with them early on about like, hey, if you guys ever bring in a boba shop, could you
just drop that out there?
Could you ask me about it or like give me a first right of refusal? And they have no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Because Dulce at USC's done so well, and like we've kind of become a part of their culture here on campus.
So cool.
I try not to like.
No,
it's like a boastful way or anything.
Like,
not at all.
People use your cup as like a status symbol. It's like you just like refill it. Like, hey, hey, what's
Sipping on that dulce, that Cafe Dulce.
just adding water to their blueberry like, matcha latte. Like, delicious.
So good.
Yeah, it's still good.
But yeah, so I think they took a long time to bring in a boba concept to the village, and they said, "Hey, James, this is like last year." They said, "Hey, we're ready to have a conversation about bringing a boba shop in, and we'd like to talk to you about that. Would you still be interested?" And I was like, "Dude, absolutely."
Yeah.
And so when they reached that conversation with us, we had just opened Yoboseyo in Little Tokyo.
Okay.
Coming out of the pandemic, and we're trying to figure out, hey, what makes sense? And Yoboseyo is a partnership between me and my wife.
Nice.
She's always helped with Dulce, but very behind the scenes, whatever else. And then when we did this, it was truly a partnership, and like the visioning behind it, the branding and all that. Like she comes from marketing and branding background, so like it was really awesome to see how much like her handprints are all over this.
Cool.
And so it was really cool to see her doing it. People always ask me like, hey, how do we like get our product in the door?
Yeah.
Because we're going to be a boba shop here, but in Little Tokyo, we're truly just like a little mini market. We have a small cafe. And so she's really focused on like kind of highlighting EPI brands.
That's cool.
And on paper, it's majority women owned.
Hey.
And she like, and so people ask like, hey, how are you? It's like, out of my hands.
Yeah.
She's a big boss.
Yeah.
And so, she's always curating things, and she's very tasteful in what she does, and at least I think so.
That's cool.
So yeah, so we're at Yoboseyo right now. We originally we put this on the calendar because we're like, we should be open by then, pretty space, but we get this little raw space right now. And
It's fine.
Yeah.
We're in the dream. We're sitting in the dream right now. It's cooking.
Yeah.
What, like, I guess if you could describe Cafe Dulce to the people who maybe haven't been to Little Tokyo or haven't had the opportunity to visit any of the locations, like what could someone expect to find in there, I guess you could say?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I see it all the time. So
Yeah, as someone that visits some of your favorite stuff, what do you see?
As I visit, I see a line out the door.
Yeah.
I see like beautiful.
not always.
Well, I mean, I see it like every time I go, it's always packed. On the weekends specifically. People are always like trying to get their drinks, or they're trying to like buy a cake or like pick up their pastries. I really like the setup. It's kind of like you kind of enter through like the corner, and then it kind of like splits, but then there's like seating on the side. There's people waiting for their coffees. But I really like the kind of the casing that has like all like the donuts and everything. It's kind of like an upgrade of like the normal like donut display, but like the racks, and then all of them are kind of like so well iced and kind of like prepared. Like it's just like it sometimes it's like oh, like did they drop that maple bar? Like but like all of them are just like meticulously done. They're like, I mean, they are pastries, but like the way it's presented and the way it's kind of like done. And then you also like I love like the nice touches of art in all of your businesses. Because you like, I think it just got like remodeled. You're telling me how you're like it just needed kind of a refresh.
It was rough.
It
was for sure rough. But yeah, I mean, quintessential like neighborhood cafe. When we opened in 2011, which it's kind of a little bit of history in coffee, but we opened during a time where third wave coffee was kind of like the all the rage. And so what that was like, first wave coffee, I forget the lady's name that coined it, but like first wave coffee was like coffee introduced to the US as a caffeine source. Okay. So like diners, nickel coffee. Second wave is like kind of the Starbucks' coffee beans and beats of the world, where Starbucks really should be credited for bringing in like espresso, cappuccino, latte, and something like that into the English or the American vernacular. And then third wave coffee is when, and Stumptown actually gets a lot of credit for this, but basically he wanted to open up a cafe in Portland, and he goes, dude, all this coffee that we have access to on the commodities market, there's no real choice. Like, I know there's got to be better coffee out there. So he actually went direct to farm, because his heritage is his grandfather was a master sausage maker. I might be
it's interesting.
Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah. So his grandfather, the reason why he was so good is, he was the whole like, I'm going to meet the pig farmer and we're going to select the pigs and that's going to go into the sausage. Yeah. And so that is his upbringing.
Yes.
I just imagine he's like, you're going to make delicious.
Meeting the pig.
Like, for lack of a pun intended, you're meeting the pig. And then you're like, yeah, that one. I want that one. But I mean, that kind of like makes sense in terms of you explaining, like, you want to meet the farmer who's making the beans. And then that kind of like, develops into, I mean, well, we can touch on your other kind of like, project and mission with the, because well, shortcut, he like roasts his own beans. And there's like, there's just bags, and I'm just like, I go into like the other Yoboseyo, and I'm like, oh look, it's like Chile and like Brazil, and then that one time I just like stumbled upon, he's like,
oh, we're doing clipping.
And I was like, well, what? It's like, we got like 14 different types of beans.
Nice.
This guy pulls like a thing of beans from his, these are, he's got a name for that.
Opens up the trench coat. You want some of that?
It's like, where am I? But it like all smells like super great. And then like, but please continue your story of like how.
So that's third wave. So he went direct to farm and then was like, hey, don't sell it to this third party or whatever. I'll buy it directly from you. And then that also turned into, we can, like, more companies realizing they could do that. And then it was like, how do we make this process better? How are you growing your coffees? How are you processing your coffees? How are you drying them, storing them, shipping them? So that entire chain became very hyper-focused to what we have today in specialty coffees, like some of the best coffees that we've ever had, So, and now they're doing like crazy things like anaerobic fermentation, where they're like, take coffees, let them dry out and like get funky in the sun, throw them in a bag, vacuum seal it.
Interesting.
And then like throw that into a pool of water and then bring it out, like, let oxygen go back in and then seal it again. Like double.
They're like, this is going to be a good bet. Doing all these crazy.
But like these coffees taste crazy. So when we opened in 2011, going back to that, like we were like, I don't know what this means, but we want to be a specialty coffee shop. So that's like dating ourselves, but 2011, there was the barrier to entry to a coffee shop was really knowledge, because the capital behind buying an espresso machine and whatever else is like, it's not insurmountable. But it's like, I don't know what machine to buy, what kind of water to use. So like all of our stores have very special water filtration and stuff like that. So the way you learned was you'd go to other specialty coffee shops, make friends with baristas, and be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you guys are like weighing things? That's what we do now?
Get the game.
And then, there's ratios. And so like, that's kind of how we learned, and that was a coffee culture in LA at the time.
Fascinating.
So that was like one segment of Cafe Dulce. Then we always wanted to figure out like, how do we do some sort of a healthy lunch program? So we have sandwiches, salads.
Nice.
And so we have that. And then we always want to do pastries. But initially, it's funny because we went over to Insomnia and got some cookies, but initially my mom wanted to do a Didi Rees there in Tokyo. But that's when it was 2 cookies and an ice cream, the 2 cookies and an ice cream for the sandwich for $1.
Yeah, pop in.
Dude, it was so cheap like that. Yeah. And so as we were building it out, I was like, how many $1 ice cream sandwiches to make rent here?
Oh, wow. 50,000.
And then quickly I was like, with my accounting background, I was like, this is not going to work.
Cookies ain't adding up.
And so we switched it to more of like a Korean American bakery, where we do a lot of like Korean breads and pastries with like a Western flair to it. That's kind of been what and like everything's kind of evolved out of that. So yeah. And then I think the one thing that kind of hopefully differentiates us is we've always been very community based. And I really credit this to Little Tokyo because it's such a unique neighborhood. I actually, as a Korean American, I'm actually like, dude, why don't we have this in Koreatown? We don't have like this anchor place where there's like cultural and religious institutions that are all right there. And then like the number of nonprofits that are there all trying to do community work. And so when we first opened, Chris and Jesse and Stacy walked in. They're like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. We don't know who you are, but we hope you do well.
Nice.
I was like, what do you guys do? And they said, we started a nonprofit called LT Roots.
Okay.
And do you know LT Roots?
Yeah, it's like the precursor to, you know, like LTCC or like, there's another one. I forget. But yeah, it's like.
Yeah, so LT Roots, they basically, they all like had worked or volunteered or grew up in Little Tokyo or had ties to Little Tokyo. And Little Tokyo went through a dark phase after the Rodney King riots in '92. Basically, Little Tokyo kind of fell off, and that was also like Japan. Like it was a very big, and people can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but like it was a very big like Japanese tourist place where like tour buses would stop
straight to it,
and then there was like basically like American souvenir shops, like it was the Japanese village. But as Japanese tourism kind of fell off, Rodney King riots, all that stuff happened. Like the 90s was kind of a dark period. 90s and the 2000s was kind of a dark period in Little Tokyo. And then it finally started turning around. And so they started LT Roots because they were like, we want to see people come back to the community. So our mission is to bring people back to Little Tokyo as much as possible.
Amazing.
And as a small business owner, worried about rent, I'm like, dude. How can I help? How can we bring more people back to Little Tokyo?
Really,
so whatever you guys need, I don't know what I can do. Or whatever you guys need, let me know. And so slowly they'd be like, hey, we're having this thing. Do you think you could give us coffee? I'm like, whatever you guys need.
That's so cool though.
I have all these pastries that I'm selling. Take them all. Give them to people. And so that kind of started my like journey with Little Tokyo as like what a community is. And I think it fundamentally changed the way I viewed how a small business could be in a community. You're not there to just like, you know,
make money.
and stack cash or anything like that. But it's like, dude, like you give back, it's so much more fulfilling. The impact that you can have is very different. So that was kind of our journey as Cafe Dulce back then. What were you even talking about?
It's pretty amazing. No, you were what we were talking about. It's been perfect. So like, how was it in the early years of Cafe Dulce? Like you expressed like your first year having like that moment with the trash, and so like beyond that, like did it continue to be that difficult of like an uphill grind, and for how many years until you started, I guess, kind of reaping the benefits, or just starting to see like, okay, this is something that like I'm just gonna stick with this is something we could do?
I think that this is for people who are starting off businesses and whatever else. Like, I think one of the things that I quickly learned was which bills I could pay last without like getting in trouble. And there was very like basically the two that I would never pay until someone come was like the gas bill and the electric bill, which everyone freaks out about. But they don't charge late fees. So there's that. And then they don't just magically shut off your power or whatever. Someone from the city comes out, LAPD or the gas company, and like, hi, like we're here, you haven't paid your bill, so we're gonna shut off your meter unless you hand me a check. And then we're like, oh,
totally,
I must have like sent it to the wrong address. Hang on real quick, let me write yours back in the list.
Envelope address.
I did it again.
Mr. Choi, we've seen you pull this off.
This is the
several
15th month in a row.
Don't you remember me? I was back. Like, yeah, but
that's smart though.
That's
it's just, I mean, because I think it happened once or twice, and I was like, oh, okay, so if I'm tight, I don't have to pay these right now. Unless they're at your door with a clipboard. They look very official when they come up.
It's a little intimidating.
And luckily I was always there to catch them because I was there for every day. And then I think it was probably about 2.5 years in where I wasn't worried about writing payroll checks on Friday and beating the checks to the bank on Monday. And, so that was pretty rough. I think 2.5 years was in when I was like, kind of felt like, hey, I'm not worried about making rent this month.
Yeah.
Like making sure my staff gets paid.
That's great.
And my team gets paid. And then, there was, I think there's a few moments where bringing tables in, like you look at your sales numbers, right? That's the only thing like you're really like, really focused on at the end of the night when you're closing up, like, was it worth it today? And like, there was definitely a night where I was like bringing tables. I think we had hit like $1,500 in sales, like a couple days in a row because it was a busy weekend. The Mocha was doing something. We had a community event, and it brought a bunch of people to the community, which LT Roots was trying to do, right? So I was like, dude, this works.
Yeah.
And then,
cool.
and so like just like picking up those tables and like trying to hide my tears from like my closing staff because I was just so grateful. They're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
The relief.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of blood, sweat, like literally blood, sweat, and tears for the first few years. And then I think I've always been lucky with, God sending like key people into my life. So Stan, who's a partner now, he would come in because he was a real estate guy and he would have dinners with managers and clients and stuff like that in Little Tokyo. So he'd always be waiting because he lived in Irvine, downtown based, and he'd just be waiting for dinner.
Yeah.
Come in, he's like, who's this guy that's here every single day?
Right.
Whenever I'm here, and then he started asking me questions, and then he's like, oh, he's not just some kid like, in a coffee shop. He's like, oh, what, you're a CPA, what are you doing here? So we talk numbers, and then I'd be like, oh, this is a guy that has a lot of information. Hey, what key performance indicators should I be looking at?
Yeah.
And he would be like, oh, you want to look at your sales per square foot. And then he's like, what are your ticket transactions? Like, how many tickets do you do a day? Like, what's your average ticket price? Like, little things that I could focus on. And then he'd always be like, hey, we're going to be having drinks at the Far Bar or wherever else. When you close up, come join me. And so like we developed a relationship over years, and like later he became a key partner.
Amazing.
But after a year of hanging out with him, he was like, hey, I have this abandoned building that there's, and we want to see if a coffee shop will work there. Do you want to do a pop-up there? I was like, we won't charge you rent or nothing.
Whoa.
I was like, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I don't know what, like how to do it or what that means, but like we'll say yes.
Figure it out.
Yeah. And then so we were able to do that, and that kind of expanded our like vision of like, hey, maybe we could do a couple of other things.
That's cool.
That turned into another physical location. That was a second location for us.
Wow.
And then like just slowly kind of, learning the ropes and then kind of going from there.
Built the cafe empire.
I say it's a house of cards.
Yeah, yeah, true. Got to stay on top every day. So how is it maintaining so many locations at this point? I mean, that's like incredible that you've been able to grow that, because it seems like it's hard even for a business to like survive, let alone be able to open up other locations. So how is that managing 5 now? That's so many.
I'd be an idiot if I said that, I'm the one that manages it all. But like, to be honest, like we've got an amazing team. And so like each of the stores kind of have their managers and people that really kind of take care of the culture there and take care of the teams there. So that's been really cool. Again, like I've had people that are just godsends into my life. And like people just, one person, her name's Jane. She's like a chosen family of mine. She went to USC, was working for us part-time as she was graduating. And then she goes, James, I don't know why, I feel like God's telling me that I need to spend a year of my life here. Wow. And then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait,
yeah,
be happy to have you.
I'm not gonna argue with God.
Yeah.
I can't. Hey, big guy.
And then, but that was the year that my mom went through chemo and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, if she wasn't there, dude, it would have been rough. I think the first time I actually spent time away from the store was during my mom's funeral. So I grew up in Vegas, and I wanted to bury my mom, or have her final resting place next to my grandmother in Vegas. So we went there, and then I still remember her like sending me a video of the store after we were closed. She's like, it's still good. Like,
It's not burnt down.
Yeah. So really, it like the managing the multiple locations definitely doesn't happen because like I'm some like wizard or anything like that, but it's just because we have really great people surrounding us.
Great team.
And people that are, part of the mission.
Yeah.
And luckily we're also doing well enough to where we can, compensate them.
Yep.
so that they feel like they can stay versus having to leave and go to other industry or whatever else. And, for sure, we've had people that have left before because they needed, at that time we couldn't provide or we didn't have an opportunity for growth. But the people that we have right now, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's amazing.
A lot of text messaging throughout the day.
Yeah, just tapping in. Good communication. What was that process of like building out those teams? Because I feel like it's pretty difficult dealing with people. So like, do you feel like you have the formula now down, or do you still like have those random, like just really challenging, I guess just because it's high level of communication with others, like?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've always tried to do is kind of be honest with whatever is going on, and always trying to approach things with grace versus like, you didn't do this and like jumping all over people. I would hope that you could ask any of my staff or managers and be like, how many times have you seen James like angry? And it's probably, hopefully it's zero. And so like, I think in terms of just a leadership style, like developing relationships, it's always been like, hey, like, let's approach this with grace. There's no reason to get upset about anything or be emotional about it. And then we've always our managers have always come up. So always like homegrown.
Amazing.
Versus like hiring someone outside and be like, this is your new manager and you listen to everything they say, because they don't know what our culture is like. So I think we can teach you all the other technical stuff or whatever else and like what we want to see in terms of like operating procedures and whatever else. But if you don't have the culture and you're not good with everybody else, and like that's a non-starter. So,
Real.
The only person that we've kind of hired outside in is someone that was a good friend of a lot of good friends. And she's been, she's like, her pedigree is amazing. Like she's baked at some amazing places. She managed Proof Bakery for a long time. Her name's Jen, and she's basically kind of our only manager that isn't dedicated to a particular store. And so anything that I can't do, she's like picking up the slack. And but we felt comfortable with that just because I think she's cut her teeth in kind of this like cafe. She's a baker by trade. And so we hired her for a different project, and then quickly she's just the type of person she is. She's like, what do you need? I'm here. Like, let's rub elbows.
Full support.
And not just with me, but any of our staff. So
amazing.
Everybody took I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like most of the guys, most of our team has been able to kind of they adopted her as part of the family pretty quick.
Nice.
Making that bread.
And then alcohol helps. Drinking with the team a lot.
Straight up. That's fun.
For sure.
I like how you're saying like you try to handle things like with grace and stuff, and I was kind of curious because not everyone has that type of like mindset, but where'd you develop that? Like, do you I don't know, or do you like read like certain books, or like like has it always been like a way that you've moved, or
I don't know if there was any one pivotal moment that like this light bulb went off or anything like that. I remember though, like when we started the store, and this is something I learned too, that was not a great idea, but I was like, I don't want to have any positions. There's not going to be any hierarchy here. Everyone's gonna hold hands, kumbaya. Everyone's going to pitch in the same amount. Everyone's going to work hard. It's going to be like the best team ever. And then, like, you quickly find that like some people are going to like work as hard and like coast and whatever. And then the other thing that happened during that time was because there was no positions, I couldn't be like, hey, Savannah, I need you to do this. Tell me whatever. It was more like all the most effective managers that I ever had were like assholes. And I was like, yeah, good managers are assholes. And so I was like, but I don't want to be that. So let me figure out how to do this. So I would never tell somebody directly what to do. I would suggest things. I'd be like, hey, maybe can somebody wash these dishes real quick? And then later I noticed people going like,
Spider-Man.
Talking to you?
Who's going to do it this time? And so what I found was people are not comfortable with gray. And just because you're direct with your instruction, it doesn't mean you have to be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
You know? And so you could be like, yo, Kev, can you hit these dishes real quick and then take the trash out later? And as long as I'm not being an asshole about him and like writing him all day, he'd be like, yeah, it's fine. It's my job. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so that was an eye-opening moment. And then people started saying that James is passive aggressive.
Oh,
and I was like,
what? Yeah.
Kevin, did you read this post-it note? Yeah. Right? Kevin, please read. Post-it note, please clean dish it. Like, it's like a flow chart. You know, but why did they say you're passive?
because I would always like say things to the ether, hoping someone would think it up, right? And so they're like, dude, look at this passive.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, okay, that's not gonna work.
Gotta adjust this. Yeah.
I will say one person that's affected. I think all these things that I felt and thought about and wanted to communicate to people and explain to people, I never had the words for it. But there was Jane, the girl that spent a year with us after. She was like, James, I saw this TED Talk. I need you to watch it.
Nice.
I'm like, great. It was his name's Simon Sinek, and I've like all of my managers.
I love that guy.
Dude, he's so good.
He just I don't know what else to say, but yeah, he always has like just like great tidbits about like leadership and like, you know, I don't even know what he does. You know, like
speaks.
he speaks. But like
Simon
like you know
Sinek.
how you know how you get to like the point where like you like people listen to you. It's like what'd you do to like, you know, now you're just doing the circle where you're telling people about like Navy SEALs and teams and looking right and left and trusting people and all these other things. But what was the tidbit that you like kind of like took away from
that TED Talk?
Yeah. So his TED Talk was, I think it's still one of the top 3 most watched TED Talks of all time. And it was like, start with why, like how do you communicate? And I'll butcher it, so I'm not going to try to repeat it. But when I discovered him, I watched that podcast every morning when I was brushing my teeth and leaving for work. It was 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So. And then all of my managers have heard it, like to the point where if I mention him, like they'll probably,
They're like,
I'm like, fuck.
yeah.
But you think like something that explosive or like that big in the TED Talk world he'd be a one-trick pony, but he took that and like moved on to all these leadership things.
Cool.
And so like his first book was Start With Why, which is great. I haven't read it, but I feel like I watched the TED Talk again.
Yeah.
And then the other one's like why leaders eat last, which is all about taking care of your team, not, you know, versus like trying to figure out what's the best for the company or best for the business or customer or whatever. It's like, so he has a lot of talks about that. He's like, he consults CEOs like, you know, what's your number one priority? He's like, the customer's my priority. Like, don't bullshit, man. You've never seen a customer in the past like 5 years. Yeah, it's like your team is the one that interfaces with the customer.
Yeah.
So you need to take care of your team.
Yeah.
You know, so
Not enough people have seen that video. Not enough people have seen that video. Continue.
But so same thing. He's very much about like taking care of the people that are in your organization versus like, you know, trying to figure out what the bottom line looks like. Because that stuff will take care of itself if everyone else is, you know.
Yeah, like still valued.
Yeah, 100%. So he for sure influenced me a lot. But yeah. And then, you know, when I discovered that video and some of the things that he talks about so eloquently and like just really well, I was like, dude, this is what people need to, my managers need to see, you know? And so even my managers, I'm like, there's been times where some of them might get upset and emotional during a certain time. I'm like, there's no reason to get mad, dude.
Yeah. It's interesting, the whole like just concept of like, your mindset and having all these tools, and it's kind of nice living in this time where there's so many like it's so available. But
100%.
I think sometimes there's just so much out there that it's not, you know, always getting into people's hands. There's so many distractions, but I wish that there was like, I wish there was like a more like curated way of getting this like information out to people. It seems like it's slowly happening more and more, but that's really cool that you share that with your team and everything. And it's very cool.
Keep that as a part of the culture.
Yeah.
We got to do more of it. I mean, I feel like with different projects and stuff, like I'm definitely less and less in any of the stores. And so like trusting in what Simon Sinek has said, and then trusting in my team. I don't try and like befriend every single staff member. Dude, I walk into USC, our USC location now, and like, I don't know half the people, but I know all of our managers know them.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like really trying to pour into the managers and then let them know that like, hey, they're taken care of. And if they feel like they're taken care of by me, then they're like, oh, I should take care of my team that way too. And so hopefully that's playing out okay.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like it. You guys are keeping things moving. And we're sitting currently, and it's Yoboseyo, correct?
Correct.
Of the in progress. I didn't want to say yo, like he was telling the story of someone butchering the name earlier.
With such confidence.
So tell us about this location, because it's a bit different than the first one over in Little Tokyo.
Yeah, so the first one in Little Tokyo, which Kevin touched on a little bit, it was another cafe that roasted and whatever, and it's literally kitty corner across the street from Cafe Dulce.
Yes.
And so so I do jiu-jitsu, right? You know, that's been kind of an outlet of mine, and I've been doing that for a while. Yes. And so during the pandemic, when everything shut down, all the gyms were closed or whatever else, there was nowhere to roll. And people were like rolling in their garages and living rooms, roll out mats and stuff like that. And so that's kind of, so I rented a desk at the central office, which is on the 8th floor of the building we're in Brunswick. And I got to know the manager there pretty well. And then I was like, hey, Carmen, like, because the cafe that was there before, there was like, it's a weird space. Ground floor, and there's like a mezzanine that's probably like 5 feet off the ground, and it goes all the way back. And so they roasted on that floor. Their cafe was on the bottom floor, and the back was central offices, like happy hour, networking place. Okay. But it was always a little weird because nobody was stationed down there. And then so you can't really like check if you're a central office member or whatever. And so, but during the pandemic, everything was closed. That cafe actually decided to close up shop and leave.
Okay.
And then, so I was like, man, dude, they're just going to put another cafe here. And who knows who it's going to be. And then, but during the pandemic, I was like, hey, Carmen, that space down there, as a member, do I still have access to the space? And she's like, why? And I was like, I was wondering if I could buy some mats and roll with some friends.
That's cool.
And then she was like,
Okay.
And so, but yeah, like graciously, she let me have access to the space. And so we were rolling there pretty regularly with like a little pod, and just a agreement amongst friends, like, hey, don't go kissing people in COVID. Because jiu-jitsu is probably the most unfriendly COVID thing. And then so we were there one night, and I was looking around, I was like, man, dude, they're literally going to lease this out to another cafe. 100% they will. And then I was like, and we've always wanted to bring coffee roasting in-house. And it was already permitted and like built out to be a roasting space. I was like, why don't we talk to them and see if we can get a good deal? And we'll roast coffee here. And then we'll figure out what to do with the bottom space. And then we'll do Little Tokyo Fight Club in the back.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
The origin story.
Well, I've actually never heard this, but in a way, like Little Tokyo Fight Club started Yoboseyo. And then eventually it rounds back where like, now it's like a club house, like membership.
That's pretty cool.
And you have the two symbols in front, so I didn't know that. It's like you're like tapping out. Like, this would make a great place to.
This is.
You're like, you're blacking out. And I have a great idea. I just came to like, what? You're like, we're gonna make a coffee roaster place. And like, oh wow! And then that was what year? That was like in early
2022.
Wow. Really? Yoboseyo's only been there for.
We're only a year and a half in.
Whoa.
Seems like ages.
Wow.
What is
COVID time warp?
The time warp. That's cool. It really is like just the plot to Fight Club, but with coffee instead of soap. Hey, you guys want to start a Fight Club? He's just like in an office. Like, you guys
instead of making soap, you're like roasting coffee. And then it even starts like I guess. Hence the Fight Club. It's like, don't tell anyone about this. Hey, you like they're gonna kick us out unless I start renting the space.
That's so
kind
cool.
of developing it. But that's like an excellent origin story. And then because you had that idea, you kind of were like how can I like imagine this and like design it out and
so like again, like we're literally across the street, so it's not like we can do another Cafe Dulce there.
Yeah.
Or like a Dulce Annex or something. I mean, so we were like, dude, what should we do? And I guess this gets into some other things that might be a little bit sensitive, but like as minimum wage has gone up so much, like the cost to employ people is so high, or so much harder to manage.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, like I know we have to do a cafe, but let's do something where we don't have to staff it with a million people.
Yeah.
Or like, dozens of people. So okay, we'll do a coffee bar that's manageable. It won't, hopefully it's busy, but even the coffee bar that we designed was so that it could be run with very minimal people. So everything is like, like everything is pre-thought out, batch, our menu's pretty limited.
Nice.
And then we're like, oh, and then we should create a store. And this is when like, I don't like timing wise, like bodega started becoming a thing. And then I was like, okay, cool. Let's do a superette. And then we'll, instead of trying to create everything that we're selling, why don't we create a platform for other people to sell things? Because they're like dialed into what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'd be stupid to think that we can do everything just as good or better than anybody else, right? So especially if like they're hyper focused on one particular
Bringing
thing.
the best.
Yeah.
And so, and then what was cool is as we started, we're like, okay, it could be like an Asian American market. We're focused on AAPI goods and stuff like that. And what was super neat about this was during COVID, everybody had a side hustle.
Yeah.
But a lot of these places weren't gonna like open their own brick and mortar. I was like, great, we could be the brick and mortar.
Wow.
And we could maybe be a small launching pad for some people.
So cool.
We're not
Jinx.
that big yet, but like, it's like small businesses helping small businesses.
That's dope.
Kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So we've gotten to meet a ton of cool people, like 626 Ice Cream.
Yeah.
From 66 Hospitality. Dude, the craziest ice creams. They're so good. And then like kanshik, this gal does like kimbap. Like, dude,
Wow.
Asians have
What about you?
so much type 2 diabetes because we eat so much rice.
Yeah.
She made kimbap with quinoa.
Ooh.
She developed her own
Oh,
technique.
quinoa. Interesting.
That the quinoa acts like rice and actually is kind of sticky and
Consistency.
rolls. Whereas you can't really roll it. And so, but those super good.
Banging.
Nice.
I mean, those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But like, and then like Korean Americans doing like dog treats, like, all dried and whatever at their house. And like, they're really like holistic, like good single ingredient items for dogs.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
We love dogs. So
Yeah. Love the dogs.
So that was kind of the birth of Yoboseyo. And again, my wife kind of helped design everything, and her fingerprints are all over it, and like she's the one curating all the stuff. And then when so coming back to this space, when the university came to us and was like, hey, we'd like to talk to you about boba, I was like, yes. I don't know what that means, but yes.
Yeah.
He's like, do you want to hear what the space is? And I was like, yeah, which space? And then like, Caitlin's gonna be, moving out from their space. And I was like, dude, that space is big.
Yeah.
It's like super long.
Does that stress you out a little bit where you're like, oh, what are we going to do with all that space? Or,
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know we need a lot of space for prep, but even then I was like, dude, it's so big. And then, so I talked to my wife and I was like, hey, Cindy, what do you think? Like, she goes, dude, maybe we should share this space. Cause we'd always talked about doing a boba concept.
Yeah.
So we have all these like names and concepts and
that's cool.
ideation that we've done before. And then we're thinking about the space. She's like, dude, it's so big. Maybe we could share the spaces with somebody. But this was literally right when we opened Yoboseyo in Little Tokyo.
Okay.
And then I was like, what if we did Yoboseyo over there? And we'd call it, so the short name, it's YBSY.
Okay.
So Ipsy Boba. I was like, dude, why don't we do like Ipsy Boba here? Like, that'll be the Boba Cafe.
Nice.
Instead of having our coffee bar cafe, why don't it be boba?
Yeah.
And then while you're waiting for your boba drink, you can discover
That's cool.
all the cool little things that you
Clever.
didn't know you
Nice.
wanted, So
Nice.
so hopefully that helps. Those ancillary sales from like the merch and stuff like that helps. And thank you for wearing your hat today.
Nice.
Had to rep the game.
Official merchandise.
Yeah. And this is our daughter was a muse for our logo.
Awesome.
And
That's
so
cool.
yeah, we really like the branding a lot. And so we're like, man, maybe we can start like creating our own product line and stuff like that. So
Hell yeah.
things that we want to do, but just
One day at a time.
Cooking.
Yeah.
Cooking.
How is that coming up with the like ideas with your wife? Like, do you guys like, is there a way that you note them? Do you just have like, conversations and then you like save them in your notes or something? Or how do you like store these?
Kind of. I mean, when before we had kids, I think my wife wrote down a lot of things.
Nice,
a lot
nice,
better.
nice.
And usually the conversations are like, we should do this. and then she's usually like, let's talk about reality. Yeah. She like kind of grounds me and brings me back down.
In my mind, I was imagining she was saying that, and you're like, no, but it's the opposite.
Total opposite, yeah.
James, we just had,
For sure.
Okay, so, but I mean, that's great. That's like the duality, that
she's definitely the much more level-headed, like, realistic, like what's feasible, like, hey, let's take a step back, let's take a breath for a moment, and then consider what you're really saying right now.
Let's really think about this.
Nice. That's so fun.
And I think we both like similar things, which is nice. And then like she definitely has a better design eye, but we like, even when it comes to that, like I'm definitely easier than she is in terms of like what she, in terms of particular things, but anything that she likes, I'm like, dude, that's dope.
Yeah. Both got good taste.
The taste.
She leads.
Trusted.
Yeah.
Tight.
What's like one of the most difficult things about getting a new location ready for the public, or just even opening a new location that might have surprised you, that you may not have like guessed that it would be that difficult or challenging?
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why this is not finished yet. So this was supposed to be open in July of last year.
Whoa.
So
he's like, yeah.
But here we are in April,
Still
approaching
cooking.
May, and we're still cooking. So like, when we talk about the difficulty of small business, like Starbucks, which is literally right across the way, they have their teams are all set in place. They have relationships with the cities, and they get away with things that small businesses can't, for sure. Like none of their locations need grease traps, whereas we're like, hey, we're gonna open a cafe, and they're like, yeah, where's your grease trap? And you're like, dude,
What? I don't even use. There's no grease.
It's a thing just there, just never used. Oh wow.
Just
like
on it.
little things like that, but like getting through the city with all the regulation and the red tape is pretty rough.
Wow.
So we were supposed to start construction in June, and then like I think we signed the lease in June or something like that, and then like we knew the permitting process would take a while, but permitting process is like 4 to 8 weeks. So and if you want to risk it, you can actually submit your plans to the city and start building right away.
Ooh.
But illegally.
Yeah.
And so what we do to try and shave some time is like, we'll wait for at least the first round of comments to make sure there weren't any like glaring things. Like we started building the counter here and they're like, oh, you can't have a counter there. Like that would be a problem. That's not something that they would say, but like, or let's say we started building out, so here we were able to argue that there's a bathroom nearby, so we don't have to have a bathroom in our space. But if they didn't allow that, and then we had to go back and put a bathroom in, like change everything around because of it, that'd be a big expense. So we wait for the first round of comments to start building. But the other thing was this was a clothing store before. Now we have food use. So we had to go through something called a change of use. And for whatever reason, that's kind of on the landlord side. But the landlord lumped us in with another change of use that's happening just down the way. And so when that went in, because the other one had more restrictions or whatever else, it held up our change of use. And we can't get our final permit until the change of use is approved. And so we were stuck. So we actually started building before and then we got to a point where we're like, we can't build anymore. Because in order to proceed on, we have to call for an inspection. So like you have to have rough inspections for plumbing, rough inspections for electrical, drywall, and everything. So all the different trades. And then we're like, well, we can't call for an inspection because we don't have a building permit. And so we were like, okay. And so we had to pull our entire team out.
Just wait.
And then we waited like 2-3 months.
That's
like
crazy. That's so frustrating.
And so, and then you have a period of free rent, but then like that ends, and then like you have to start paying rent, and you're not.
That's crazy.
So
like how like they start charging you rent, but it's like it's on them for like the change of use permit, and it's like this kind of like weird cycle. It's like hey buddy, you know, I'm just gonna suggest this. You know, maybe could someone get these permits? You know.
No, I mean I will say like the university has been really. They've been amazing with us.
Yeah.
And like they're very reasonable when it comes to that. So they actually extended our free rent period because of the change in use.
Nice.
But you know, even so, like if you had a shitty landlord that didn't care, they'd be like, oh man, you signed the lease.
You could be in a bad spot, just locked in.
Yeah.
So fortunately we have a really good relationship with them. So that's been really good.
Nice.
Some of the other things are like, man, I'm an amateur electrician, amateur tile worker. Like I know more about construction than I ever thought I'd need. Or ever thought I'd know. But like, yeah, that's been kind of cool. And then just like, it always takes forever.
Yeah.
And again, going back to like us being a launching pad for a lot of these small brands that were like side hustles.
Yeah.
Dude, for them to undertake, like also lease negotiations take months.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like finding a location, negotiating a lease, signing a lease, and then doing permits, and like it's quite a bit. And then so they call it entitlements, but like all of your permits and all of the fees that you have to pay for every time you get a plan, like plans checked or submitted.
Yes.
They've gotten so expensive.
Whoa.
So just for entitlements, you're talking like 40, 50 grand.
Just for someone to review what you're
Because
submitting.
you're paying for your architect, you're paying for an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer, a plumbing engineer,
Wow.
Title 24 engineer. And then when you take something to the city, they're like, thank you, here's your bill.
Yeah.
Like,
Is the
Get
timeline
you every step of the way.
really slow because of like, you know, I know like to get anything approved during like the pandemic, it was like super slow.
Yeah.
And is it still like, you know, it's like you wait and then you just kind of like sitting on your hands?
it's gotten a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if we're lucky or if our contractor's really good, but our contractor actually doesn't do commercial projects. It's his first like big commercial project that he's the overall GC on. But I'm like, hey Jerry, like how are permits looking? Like how are inspections going? He's like, good. And I was like, because normally other projects we've had, they're like, we called, but they didn't come out. Or maybe they were just blowing smoke up in my ass. But like, Jerry's like, it was good. I called him. He told me to be out on Tuesday. He came on Tuesday, and like, I was like,
nice.
what were the comments like? He was like, oh, just like fix a couple things.
Yeah.
But yeah, he signed off. I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So for us, like permit wise and like inspection wise, we've been pretty. Other than the change of use thing, like the inspection process has been amazing.
Nice.
And it also depends on like the inspector you get.
Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Dude, if they get hung up on something and they don't want you, and then you like fight, you have to pick and choose your battles. Yeah.
Dang.
Then he's like, oh, you want to argue about this?
Oh
Let
no.
me see what else I can find. He's like,
Terrible.
Is this up to code? Like, what
dude, 100%.
dang.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
How does it feel being in the game this long? 10 years is like an incredible like time of dedication, and you know, and you're like growing it still, and in the process of like, how does it feel to be in the position you're in now?
Tired a lot.
Yeah. I'm tired.
For sure. I tongue in cheek say it feels like a house of cards, but it really does. I almost feel like if you're not somewhat paranoid about what you're doing, you probably don't care enough. So that's always like, I don't know. I feel like at any point it could start turning south. So that's always a little scary. The other thing I think about pretty often is like, dude, if these all failed and I went BK, like, what do I do after this? Because I'm not going back to accounting.
Yeah.
I have to start off back at like a staff level probably. And as a guy in the middle of his career now, like where do I start? Like,
Just don't ever.
I'd have to start over at staff entry level position. Like, what would I do?
I mean, you're like the Spanish conquistadors, you know. You like already burned your ships. You're like, I'm in too deep. I have to make it work. I have. It's the difference where it's like you have the option. It's like, you have like, do I take this job or I could do this, you know? But it's like, I gotta make it work, you know, or else there's nothing, you know, turning back. Thanks for affirming
my life.
Totally. No, but I mean, but you're doing it, and that's like you already have so much experience, and like even like in the beginning for like the original Dulce, it's like how how like heavy that was, and then you like endure, you know, because like I've read some previous interviews of you, and you're like, you know, just keep your head down, you know, focus on the hard work, you know, like just like believe in what you're doing, and then just like keep, you know, showing up every day.
Thug it out.
Say yes to a lot of things that you may or may not. You know, I actually, that's something like that you said in like an interview for Show Alley that I take to heart, and that's kind of why I say yes to everything.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh, Big Brother James is saying this, like, okay, let's do this, right? So I'm like following like the template of that, and like it's just like, you know, your success is like, you know, a beacon for everyone who's kind of like around you, and then like the way that you describe it and like all these like kind of things I would never know unless, you know, we invited you on the podcast about all these like you know, like these building codes and permits. I'm just like, I've worked in construction, so I'm like, oh, I know. You know, you're like, hey, can you guys, can you stamp this? Like, oh, it's gonna be another $25K. Yeah. You know, it's like so difficult. But like, yeah, like, or even watching. I know you have like, if you check out like his like Instagram, there's like a highlight reel of you building out Vernon.
Oh.
And I was watching
that?
I was watching that. I was like, yo, how are they gonna get that hood in there? I was like, that's crazy. You know, like, oh yeah, like we don't have like there's this one where it's like 11 people trying to like dolly this thing out, and I'm like,
dude, I can't believe you've even seen that.
Yeah.
I've always been like, dude, I should document the construction process more. And I think Vernon was the only one that I did.
Oh.
Like this one, we had cameras set up, and then they went, yeah.
Oh, the kids.
Like we did like stop motion.
Nice.
But
you're like you're stopping construction for content creation. Like, whoa, can you guys take it out and then reinstall it? I need the footage. But I mean, like, it's all super insightful because it's like, I mean, you know, it'll help someone like you know, like further down the line who's like, you know, like how did he make this? Or like how did he do this? Or like, you know, just like, I think you were talking about like the moldings and like all these other things. And it, you know,
just helps people appreciate the effort and care that went into like building the location. Yeah. It seems like you value what you do a lot, and that like care shows through the space when people enter.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Do you ever, I know you're like, you know, really busy, but do you ever just like kind of sit and think about like all that you've accomplished? Like, do you ever pat yourself on the back and have those moments where you're just like, yeah, like we did this, you know, like, do you have those moments?
Would you like a pass?
Would you like that?
Because you're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it.
I burned all my shifts.
There's no turning back. This is it.
I mean,
there's nothing.
Yeah, he's in bed at night tonight, just kind of like eyes awake.
Why did you say that? What is this?
Yeah, there's totally, if this doesn't work out for you, there's totally no hope at all. You put everything on nuts.
You got this. Yeah.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
You're actually doing it.
I think like the times that I do that or feel that is like when we do holiday parties, we'll always have a Christmas party or whatever, and like, you know, family comes and stuff like that. And our holiday parties used to be very small, and now like, including USC and whatever, all the stores, like, and when they bring their families, we're like 150, 200 people.
Whoa.
The impact.
Yeah, so like that, moments like that, I'm like, whoa, dude, this is like, this has been pretty impactful for not only my life, but hopefully others.
Wow.
So that kind of feels good. I think this is kind of early on. This, when you said that the image that I had was, there was, have you guys heard of Totoraku?
Totoraku?
No.
It's like, I think it still is probably one of the most exclusive restaurants you can get into. But
is that the one in the meat place? Oh, I think you showed me one time. It's like it was like a Yelp, but it's like, it's invite only. Some kind of like, it's the signage on the outside looks like, you know, really old school.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, you
got to know a guy.
The industry.
No, you literally have to know a guy.
Yeah. Well.
So like, you can find his number, you can call him, but he won't call you back. Or he'll like politely decline, like, oh, sorry, we're fully booked.
Place hard to get.
But
be
it
worthy.
used to be called the Pico Teriyaki House, and his story is pretty dope too.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna butcher it, but like, classically trained chef from Japan comes to America and goes, I'm gonna make it in America, And Americans like teriyaki, so we're gonna do pico teriyaki house.
Okay.
He probably didn't say that, but I think
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah. And then after 2 months, he was like, "This isn't it." Like,
This ain't it.
and he was like, he goes, "Dude, if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down and do what I think I can do best."
Yeah.
And so he created like a set menu, kind of invite only thing where you kind of had friends come over. And he said, I'm going to do it with an ingredient. I'm not going to just do what I did in Japan. I'm going to do it with an ingredient that is different from Japan, that I know is unique to, or like very strong in America. So it's beef. So his whole course is beef from start to finish.
I like that.
And it's amazing. But
So you've been.
I've been.
Sorry, that's my phone. Oh.
My bad.
You scared me. I was like, no.
So cut him off. We're done.
Ignore that.
So one of my partners today for a ramen partnership that I pulled into, he actually introduced me there. He's like, James, if you're going to be in the food industry, you have to come in.
Whoa.
Cool.
So he took me and my wife there for the first time, and I was like, dude, I love this place. I want to come back. And he goes, I'll introduce you to the chef, but if you want to come here again, you have to make an investment.
Ooh.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, if you want him to remember you, you got to come and eat again. And then I was like, oh shoot, dude, this is like,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right.
The Sonic
So,
coins.
so I went again. And then as I was going, my staff was like, dude, James is going to these nice restaurants. And I felt like that. I don't know if they actually said that, but I felt like that might have been the case. I was like, dude, we can all go.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about, like spending money. It's like, it's about, if you want to do something, you can save towards it.
Yeah.
And then you can go.
Big facts.
So I was like, dude, at that time, dinner was $160 cash. And so this is 10 years ago. And so for people that are working, a cafe job, making tips and stuff like that, it's kind of,
I'm trying to do like old, like,
Takes a bit.
minimum wage.
Yeah.
But also like, they have their own expenses.
Yeah.
And else. I was like, guys, let's save $10 a week for 4 months. When I have the cash in hand, I'll make a reservation for us. We'll go.
Yeah.
And we sold out the restaurant.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Well, because it's also a small restaurant. There's 36 seats, so we took all 36 seats. My entire staff went. And what's cool about the restaurant is the chef, like it's just him and a small team. So once he's kind of done, he'll come out and say hi to everyone.
Amazing.
That's what
Yeah.
And then at the old restaurant, it was BYO. Bring your own beer.
Yeah.
Alcohol. So everyone always brings red wines.
Nice.
Because it's beef.
Come with the 40s.
And then
I brought my drinks. Yeah.
What's up, shit?
Yeah.
I got one for you.
Yeah. So funny.
But so they provide like really nice wine glasses. And then when he came out, I happened to be up and already drunk, and then he walked out right by me, and I was like, everyone, this is the next one. And then I was like, dude, can we cheers? And then everybody raised their glasses at the same time. And I was standing up, so I got the bird's eye view, and I was like, dude, this is dope.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was a very rewarding moment, because it wasn't just like, hey, we're going to a nice dinner and we're gonna splurge. It's like, hey, it's a lesson in saving.
Yeah. And everybody got to enjoy that. Like, what a payoff, for everyone to
And it wasn't like this thing where you're like, oh, I'll put it on my credit card and I'll pay for it later.
Yeah.
Where it feels like, when you're doing it, it feels like, shit.
Yeah.
Versus like, we saved for it, so it felt more celebratory.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Intentional. That's great.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Outside of all this businessing and working and, staying on top of the game, what do you like to do for fun? Or what do you like to enjoy on your free time, or when you do have the downtime?
So we have a 6-year-old daughter. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very boisterous. You've met Autumn. I don't know if she's
Yeah. She was at Joe Market today making those those floral tags. What should we call it? Forget what the Joe Market lead is. What's her name?
Jane.
Yeah. Right.
Jane's she's the mastermind behind Joel Market.
Nice.
And so Autumn's a ton of fun, and then we have a 1-year-old boy. His name's Cody. So
Fresh.
that takes a lot of time, which is great. I'm actually, that's another thing I'm really grateful for. Even though I'm super busy and I probably work more than if I had a 9 to 5, but it's flexible enough to yo, Autumn's got dance and swim. So I'm gonna go.
Nice.
That's
You
so
could be there.
tight.
Yeah, so I can try and do that. And then, you know, outside of family and trying to travel with them as much as I can, it's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Nice,
putting
nice.
people in chokeholds or having a tough week. You're like,
I'm gonna give you an idea.
yeah.
I mean, most of the time it's me trying not to die.
The
What's
perfect.
cool is when someone's trying to choke you, you can't think of other stuff.
Yeah.
In the zone.
Yeah.
It's just not even. You know, I don't even consider the permits.
You know what? It's not that bad that it's like delayed. It's kind of refreshing.
That's really cool. Are there any like upcoming things that you're excited about or would like to share with the peoples?
I mean, this open. It looks a little raw right now, but we finally got our fire life safety stuff kind of squared away. So he's going to close up this last portion of the ceiling.
Nice.
Once that happens, and the rest of the finish is going, and then everything comes down, and like you're like, oh, cool, it's a store. So this should actually, like, we're kind of at the, you know, last 10 yards here.
Yeah.
Great.
And then it'll be final inspections and then getting open. We were trying to open before graduation, which is coming up here, and that's the busiest day of the year for us.
Makes sense.
But I actually think it might be a blessing that we're not open then, or
Just the timing would.
Yeah.
been-
just because we would have.
Get time to cook.
That's when you're gonna make all of your mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can only make a first impression once. So.
Yeah.
I know there's like seniors this year that are like, dude, finally a boba spot. We'll be open. It's like, no. Sorry, dude.
They're still walking by. And they're
Still checking the window. Like,
like,
Are you guys open? I'm graduating. You know?
Sorry, man.
Dude, could you share some of the locations that you guys have available out there in Southern California, just for the people to come check out if they're like local or?
Dude, thank you for the plug.
Yeah, I was just saying.
The heart of Little Tokyo is Dulce number 1. Dulce 2, Dose, which we call it, it's just a coffee bar. It's at the Road, DTLA.
Okay.
On Alameda and 7th is kind of the best cross streets. Third one is USC Village. So that one's right here. Google map your way to Trader Joe's. It'll take you to the parking lot. And then number 4 is in Vernon, which is a weird one, but we're there. Number 5 is also a weird one. It's on Los Angeles and Olympic.
Okay.
So I think the other thing too is like we don't open locations because we're like actively trying to look for locations, but those are all kind of relationship based. So we open those, and then I guess our 5th store would be Yoboseyo in Little Tokyo as well, and then this will be no. Our 5th store was Los Angeles and Olympic.
Okay.
6 would be Little Tokyo, Yoboseyo, and then this will be number
7.
Nice.
Lucky number 7.
I want to chill.
Yeah. Like, I need a nap after all that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you guys have any last questions? And then I have a final.
I got a last question. Can you explain why you had a pop up with Schoolboy Q? I was like, he just bought everyone like blue lemonades and blueberry matcha lattes.
That's
and
cool.
I was like, I don't, just not computing because I was listening to that whole album and then I saw that it was like, oh yeah, free drinks over at SC Cafe Dulce. What?
Cafe, what?
Yeah, I'm like, yo James. You need someone to hit the course with you.
That's so cool.
Let's go. Yeah.
I think because on campus with like the exposure we have, I think we have like 1,000 transactions a day here.
Nice.
And so we get a lot of bodies through the door. And so when I think it's a particular music PR group, they reached out and like, hey, we want to do something with Nora Jones. So right before that, we did Nora Jones.
That's cool.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool. And then
Yeah.
like, you know, I grew up in her era, and then I remember watching her movie. What was it, like Blue Rain or I forget what it was. So I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it.
Yeah.
Nora Jones is cool.
Yeah.
And then they're like, would you be interested in Schoolboy Q? And I was like, what?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
For sure. But like, so the funny story about, well, they told our managers first, and they're like, yeah, James is going to do this for sure. Because we used to we used to eat at Shabu Shabu House that's across the way from us in Little Tokyo. And they're no longer there, RIP. Dude, so sad. It's the best Shabu Shabu House
Damn.
anywhere. And then, but there was this like one back corner seat with like four chairs. And I would go and eat there with my wife. And and we go there pretty regularly. Everyone was a regular.
Yeah.
They loved it. And so it was him and his friend June, who was Deadline Clothing, I think. Yeah, and so like they were there, and then I forget how the conversation started, but like he was like, "Oh, that's Schoolboy Q," and I was like, "Oh, cool," and then we were talking and stuff like that.
What year was this?
This is 2015.
2015.
Yeah,
so like
super
was
early.
Like Blank Face.
Blank Face.
Yeah.
Before Crash Talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
And then we'd be eating together, like basically because he's like right there, and you know, it's all table bar seating.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So you're like rubbing elbows with whoever you're eating with.
Yeah.
And then I ate most of my plate raw. I wouldn't.
Oh.
Yeah. So dude.
Getting in.
I mean,
Getting into it. Kevin was like, "Oh."
Because what is it? Isn't correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't like Shabu Shabu House like it's the one that introduced Shabu Shabu to
Yeah. It's
America?
the first one in North America.
Right.
Yeah.
So like
legendary.
quality.
Damn, that's
So-
sad.
Yeah. So his shop is the only place I'll do it.
Yeah.
That I mean, I can't even do it anymore. But and then his sauces are so good.
Wow.
He made his ponzu and his peanut sauce in the house. Dude, it's so good. So I just raw right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I did like cook it, it'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Quick dip.
Yeah,
for sure.
Quick
Dip your
sizzle.
toe.
But like Schoolboy Q would be looking at me like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this guy doing, man?
Oh.
You're supposed to cook your meat. And I was,
Am I doing this wrong? he's like, he's looking at you. He's like,
Should I?
eat? Like, yo, man, this
he's like, what's this boiling pot of water?
that's just a steam bath.
Yeah.
Aromatic.
Yeah.
Aromatic. It's like, yo, man, James' skin's so good. Like, he's just gotta eat raw beef. So he's like looking at you.
Yeah, and then he's like, what? I was like, dude, try it. And he's like, nah. Man.
I'm good. Yeah.
But that was like, I would see him there pretty often.
Yo.
Like, I think probably half a dozen times or whatever. And
That's cool.
I don't remember any of our conversations, but that's definitely something I remember. And then I think they would buy drinks at our place. He did like the blue lemonade.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, dude, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
full circle.
That's super fire.
And then later, like that was before he like really blew up. And I saw him on like these Instagram clips and then he was like the face of Spotify's Rap Caviar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I was like, dude, this is crazy. I used to eat shabu shabu. Yeah.
That's popping.
Tight.
Yeah. That is super
That
full
was really
circle.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Amazing.
I don't know. It's just a really like
So
wild.
I actually wrote that in the caption about like the shabu shabu or whatever. And then everyone was like, dude, this is so random, but I love it. Thank you.
From the heart.
Yeah, that's really cool. Nice.
Did you have any last things? I'll ask my
I think
last
you
question.
do.
All right. So
Okay.
my last
Did you have
question.
one?
No,
Okay.
that was my.
Yeah.
Let's go in.
Depth is.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is either pursuing an alternative career path or maybe interested in pursuing like a dream or opening up their own business or
I think this kind of touches on something kind of cultural or also, but I feel like we're in a generation of instant gratification. Instagram, Amazon Prime, like everything happens. Like you can binge watch a whole season of whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't have to wait for much. Right? Everything is like so fast and instant. But like it took us 2.5 years before I felt like I could breathe.
yeah.
And when we started Dulce, and I think dude, things just take time, and you actually don't know how it's gonna end up or pan out. But if you really believe in something, if you think, I think what you guys are doing is a testament to it. Like you guys started podcasting on 160 episodes.
Thank
You guys been doing this since 2019.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And like, you know, if you did this and after 5 episodes you're like, dude, we have no traction, whatever, they're like, you would have stopped. But you guys are just doing it because you love it.
Yeah.
It's fun. And you guys are about it. So like, I think that's one of the things is like having the grit, determination, and like the patience, I think is really big. And then also, I think especially as people that are entrepreneurial or like they're dead set on like, dude, I'm going to do this, and they actually take the steps to do it. it's usually like, this is going to be my vision. This is what I'm going to do. I think it's pretty important to be flexible and kind of let the wind take you a little bit. Let God put obstacles in your path that make you kind of change course a little bit and be okay with it, because maybe you'll end up somewhere that was better than you would know otherwise. And I think that was kind of one of the benefits. Like, we kind of had a general idea of what Cafe Dulce was going to be, but it wasn't mine to start. And I was just like, I know generally that I want to be XYZ. How we get there is cool. So and now we're somewhere that I never thought we'd be. So
incredible. James, thank you so much for joining us. It has been wonderful getting to hear your story and learning more about you.
I'm gonna buy some merch.
So I want to cop some merch.
We'll get you guys merch.
I want to buy it.
Yeah, we gotta support the biz. It's been a wonderful episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, whenever, and we'll catch you next time on the Dipped Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, James.